Hey everyone, thank you for joining. So before we start on today's session's topic, I want to first just do a couple of simple things to just get us present and and in the right energy. I find this very interesting how some of these somatic practices are do much better than just trying to think about things. And I'm also one person who gets into my head a lot, so some of these grounding practices are very, I find it very powerful to say, okay, at the end of the day, you do have a nervous system, you do have a body, so you can't just think your way through things. So yeah, so I just want to do this. The first thing we'll do is a very simple Shin finger hold. So we'll do this for 1 minute, the 30 seconds for this, and I want to do 30 seconds of havening. I'll show you that. So this is just you hold each of your fingers, like give it a snug hug, and don't forget to breathe. I've realized the more I notice my body these days, I notice how much shallow breathing I'm doing a lot of times. And that's a good reminder to like breathe deeply. Usually, when you hold your finger for a bit, it starts to, you get a throbbing sensation. In Jinshin Jitsu, the finger holds literally are like you're jump starting the circuits, whichever. So each of these fingers have different emotions they address, and you just kind of balance that particular flow. You can move to the next one when you're ready. The next one. Just notice if there's sensation, if you're having that throbbing. The more I do spiritual practices or read about things and so on, I realize it's a lot about noticing. So, to get really good at noticing things or sensing things, you could call it. Moving to the next finger, and the last one. You can move to the other hand whenever you're ready. You can also be intuitive about how long you stay on each finger. Sometimes a particular finger wants you to stay there for longer. You can move through to the next one. The last one. Try and do like 5 breaths, at least, I think 5 to 10 on each. Once you're done with the fingers, you can touch your center of your palm. There's no big force or pressure we're applying, just gentle. Like I said, it should feel like a hug. And you can move to the other palm once you're done. Okay. So each of these fingers represent one emotion. This is fear, anger, no, sorry, worry, fear, anger, sadness, and trying too hard. So end, worry, fast, FAST. So fear, anger, sadness, and trying too hard. And then you balance through the center of your palms, so grounding. All right. The next thing I want to do is havening, which is, I find this to be very powerful. You can just you can start with just going like that over your palm. Then you could go all the way right from here to you know how as kids someone used to just rub our heads like that and it would feel really good, our parents or grandparents. So I think this is pretty much what it is, but it seems to have a lot of science behind why that is so powerful. Um, there's a lot of receptors here which, send those signals of safety and calmness to our brain. So when I remember to do it, I find it's very powerful. You could also do this. You immediately notice yourself breathing a little more deeply. Like that sigh of like, whew, it's okay. All right. Thank you. So today's topic I've chosen is being human and being awake. So this has been very alive for me personally recently. Thanks, Amrita. That's great. So being human, when we think of being human, and the way I want to structure today is I'll talk a little bit about this and share what I've kind of some insights that I found in this process, and then I'll share few practices that we can apply. So for me, spirituality has not been something that is great to pursue. It's been, I mean, I think for many of us, that's when we get drawn to it because there's enough in the world that says uh, to take us away from looking inward, right? Like there's a lot outward to say, okay, this joy, that particular, I don't know, career, vacation, family, joys, different things that kind of draw us outward. And to make us look inward, like Neem Karoli Baba says, suffering is grace, right? Some suffering, something doesn't go your way is what usually makes us look within to say why, what's wrong, what is happening. And it's also definitely grace because it could take you in many directions when things don't go our way. To be able to find certain teachings that point you towards the truth is, I completely feel it's just grace. There's nothing any of us, any or be is doing about it. Um, and so when I think about what I'm learning, it has to be applied. Should be available to apply in situations that I find hard through my day, right? So coming back to this being human. So the thing about being human, I think, is like I was talking about how invested we are in this story of who we are, what we want, what's going right. We have a lot of preferences and expectations with how our story should play out. And any mismatch there bothers us, right? And that's where we see that there is friction and which is not pleasant, right? That's where the unpleasantness comes in. And when we think about being awake, since many of us here I see are like have been on this journey already. So we know that if you think about non-dual teachings and so on, they point to like seeing through that illusion of being this separate person, being this separate individual, the sense of separation, and that as that disappears, the whole idea is to see through that, right? Like the illusion of it. So I think most of us have this glimpse of like, oh yeah, that's true, right? Like there is oneness, there is that this person idea, this story is an illusion. Maybe we get it through our particular traditions saying, okay, there's reincarnation, there's a soul, or we just, whatever way we've come to that. I think we realize this sense of being limited is what is giving us this grief and sorrow. But that is still at a like an intellectual level, right? Like we don't feel it all the time. Like otherwise our stories, our preferences shouldn't bother us. That's where that whole conflict lies, right? Like how can you be human and be awake? How can you feel all of this pain and be invested in your story, play out this role, and yet see through this, having seen through this fact that, okay, you're not separate, you're not this limited being. So this has been a very interesting journey. So when we say, let's take where we are, so we see that this is what it is, but we find that we are still caught up and it still things affect us, right? So what changes when you see through the illusion? What changes when we see through that illusion? I think it's not about not being here anymore, right? Like we see that even after we've seen through it, we still have a human body, we still feel hungry, we still feel hot, cold, all of that. And we still have a story, people recognize us, we're still very much operating in the world. So the thing is, the difference is in our relationship to it, right? Because like Zen says, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So what changes is the activity stays identical and the relationship to it is not identical anymore, right? But let's make sense of this very practically to say when a difficult emotion arises, because that's when we're challenged. When everything's going fine, we can say, of course, I know that there's no separation. So when a difficult emotion arises, when there is not, the seeing is not there, right? What's the unawakened state or response in that sense? Is that this complete identification, the emotion is who I am. I say, I go back into the past and say, this is how it always goes. Or I project into the future and say how it's ruined, right? Um, or I say this shame means that I'm defective, this fear means that the world is not safe, I am not safe. And so there is the feelings, and then there is this story that is compounding all of this, and we're looping through that for the most part. And now let's say we see this idea that, okay, this is not the truth, this is not who I am. And now there could be one of the big traps I have noticed is this bypassing, right? So I wanted to touch on that today, which is how can we kind of make sure we're not doing that? So when you bypass, what happens is that you have the right ideas. You say impermanence, we say everything is as it should be, and but then this is where the body comes in, right? Like, but you notice that your body is frozen, right? If you start to notice what's happening, you see that your body is frozen, and probably you're at one level, if you notice that you're numbing, is that there is a surface calm, but internally you're still agitated, or this agitation comes back in a few hours, in a few days, because it's not done, or it shows up in very strange ways where a very different scenario triggers you versus what, since you didn't feel the feeling in, your child bothered you, you got angry, but you said, okay, no, this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't be like this, or whatever. And then something else at work came up and you lost it, right? And we see this because we are trying to do it at an intellectual level where we're like, okay, I shouldn't be feeling this. I shouldn't be thinking like this, right? So what would an awakened response be? And I don't think we can ever truly know this, know exactly what an awakened person, or there's no such thing as an awakened person, but what would an awakened state do in this case? But I found this very interesting way to at least segregate two things in our own response, right? So there's one which is a somatic response, and the one there is a narrative response. So when I talk about somatic response, it's everything our body has felt since we were born, and probably even before that, if you go into traditions of rebirth and so on. So there's a lot of the Buddhist tradition, for example, says there is the consciousness where you have stored tendencies and stored emotions from God knows how long, right? Everything you've held on, everything that's unprocessed. And there is, and when we say there's no separation, there is and the ancestral stuff, there is the collective overall human stuff. So there's a lot of it. And so when we talk about a somatic response to, say, when we see something wrong and we get angry, so that anger is not just, maybe it could be from childhood where something similar transpired, but it could just be the collective thing that you also hold in yourself, right? And so that response is just a feeling. It may be a tightening of a chest, like you hold, like a tightening of the clenching of the jaw, or whatever else, and you feel something. But then there is this other thing that goes off usually. At least I notice that in myself, where there's this story kicking off now, which says, how this is all bad, what it means for the future, what it meant for the past, and judgment about why I'm feeling this now that I know that there's no separation. So there's that other story also that comes in. And now this is where it just doesn't end with that pure feeling. It compounds, right? Again, I'm feeling that again and again and again. And there's this looping. And I found this very useful to like separate these two, because in when you start bypassing is when you kind of say I should shut down this feeling part of it. And you're shutting on the story and you're also shutting down the feeling of it. And that's suppression, and then that is not cleanly processed in that sense, right? Um, so I found it useful to like say, okay, there's this somatic piece and there is this narrative piece. So can we feel what we're feeling, right? And notice that there is so much. And so you don't even have to have this judgment of like where this is coming from or like what is it. So very cleanly feel it. And why would you be, and sometimes it's very hard to feel these feelings, right? Maybe it's grief, maybe it's extreme sorrow. And you like almost like that's feeling, if I actually touch it, it's going to finish me. And I think that's where that idea of truly, if you realize that there is no separation, there is no such thing as a you that can be destroyed, is when you would be even able to allow that much of feeling to come in. And when you do allow it, you'll see that it moves through and it's complete, right? But this is an ongoing process because, like I said, even I don't know how much is there, how much of this is left for all of us to like kind of process, or even if it matters anymore, right? Like once you say, I'm open, undefended, and I am the world, and the world is me, there's no separation. Something happens, you feel something, you don't question it, and you don't start doing that story thing immediately. You just let the feeling come and you open yourself to it, right? That's the funny thing about what an awakened state would do is it would break you. It would break you open and you would allow whatever is there to be there. I think that's a great way to kind of do a check whether you are thinking your way through this or you're feeling your way through this and not adding the story, right? There is an important piece where the unawakened person also might be crying, but there's usually this narrative piece and there's a defense, right? Because there is the defense of I have to protect this person a lot. Like I have to protect, I have to, or this shouldn't have happened. This is wrong. But in the as you move to this side, you're like you're allowing the feelings, but the story is not there of like why this shouldn't have happened, this is wrong, and so on, right? um so that was the big like like insight of like once you realize, okay, am I kind of numbing this, am I not feeling this versus uh and you notice that if you don't do that, maybe at one level now you're the stories come in, and so there's this creation of like, okay, there is two parts to this, like it's super helpful. I found that, okay, can I allow the feeling to be there while I can note, even when I say the story needs to be dropped, it's not about doing something, it's just about noticing that there is this story, which then doesn't give it enough more fuel to like go keep going, right? um and yeah, and when we talk about an awakened state, so there's no point about looking anywhere else outside to check if anyone else is awakened or not, or it's just about how am I dealing with the daily conflicts, emotions that come up, and see, am I suppressing it with my ideas now, or am I allowing myself to feel it? Can I just allow everything to just be, including those stories in that sense, but without chasing them, right? Um, so that was a beautiful kind of an insight that through many things came up for me. Any questions at this point before we go into practices? Okay, let's get to the practices and then maybe we'll take questions because that might make it a little more concrete, I hope. Um, so the first practice is sensation tracking, right? Like when something difficult arises, right? And this is the foundation because like an uncomfortable emotion arises, and so instead of going, what's the memory, what's the story, and so on, like where do I feel this, right? Usually I find when there's difficult moments, the simplest, if I have like a mantra or if I have like a simple question, it's easier to do it than if it's too elaborate. Like if I tell you hold your fingers, right, when things are hard, I don't think you're going to do it. It's going to be, it's too intense. The moment is too intense. I mean, if you keep doing it, probably you will. Because sometimes I start tapping my heart center, which has become like a go-to sometimes when it's feeling too hard. But a simple, like one simple thought to cut every other thought is usually super helpful. So now, first in this sensation tracking, we're like, where do I feel this? What is the shape of it? What's the temperature? Instead of going into your head, you kind of come down to your body and say, where is it? Right? Kind of give your mind something else to do, right? To say, where is it? Is it getting more intense? Is it getting less? And so we stay with the sensation. And then as we do that, like we know, it shifts and moves and changes on its own, right? Whereas the narrative part, of course, doesn't complete. That's the thing to notice there because a narrative story never completes, it loops, right? It's always regenerated. It's usually intensified as you go and follow it. It kind of intensifies by saying how it's truly horrible and how everyone's like this or how I'm always like this and so on. Um, but what's the bypass trap here, right? One is you use your body and you use this very questions to stay a little further from your what's happening, right? When we say what's the sensation and we say, let's say there's a tightening, right? And you don't want to feel it, right? At one level you're like, this feels terrible and I don't want to feel it, but that's where you say, can I allow that, right? Instead of just being like, oh, I noticed the pressure in my chest, which is very intellectual, can you say, can I get close to this? Very good question to ask is how far am I from this, right? So you see now whether this I is defended or is there an I still defending itself against this uncomfortable sensation, right? So you say, how far am I from this? And can you say, okay, now can I go a little closer to it? Can I open myself to it completely? Like if you're brave enough, depending on how intense it is, of course. Great way to do these practices right now is to actually pick something where you find repeatedly you're hit with this difficult emotion, and you kind of see yourself looping, right? So that's a great, if you pick something right now and you say, okay, if you're, I don't know if it comes up right now for you, do this as much as is comfortable. If you're going to pick something really hard, go as far as you feel comfortable to do right now, right? And so if you do that, and you say, how far am I from this? And can you say, okay, can I go closer to this? Or can I fully open myself to this, right? And say no defenses at all. So that way, you don't just stay in your head. You kind of say, this is a good way, like I was saying, to check, okay, am I blocking from feeling this, right? Because it's very easy to, even when I say, what's the sensation in your body? And you say, tightness in my chest. And you're like, now you're in your head again, like, um, and but saying tightness, and can you just stay with that feeling for a bit? Like, stay with that tightness and go closer to it. It helps whatever that your body is trying to do, whatever the emotion is trying to do to actually move through, right? So that was practice number one. Now the second practice, and among when I share all of this, you can pick any that kind of stays with you, and you feel like this resonates and this is something I could do, and pick that up. So the second one is noticing the narrator and not fighting it. So, like I was saying, when the story starts, this always happens to me, they should have, I shouldn't be thinking, I'm doing it wrong, like, right? Instead of either following it or suppressing it, you can just say, okay, there is a story arising, right? there is a story arising. Better than I am telling myself a story, because again, there's judgment there. Say, there is a story arising. And then that's the way you kind of say, you get out of that the narration piece. But what's the bypass here? What could happen? So the very idea of there is a story arising becomes a story, right? So you get into this witness position of I am the one who sees stories, I am beyond them. And so then there is again intellectualizing of it. And so what you do is you add what happens when I let that story land, right? Don't run away from it immediately, or don't say I'll not follow it or whatever. Let the story come. I am always like this. If you really let it come to you, let it land, what happens, right? Usually we don't want to go there. Usually, if I say I'm always like this, there is maybe guilt, right? Or shame. And I'm like, oof, I want to not feel it. And then if you say, okay, can I let it land? Like, let it land, what happens? So this is like almost like a dance where you're like, on one hand, you want to see through, you're allowing for that seeing through of the fact that there is no person here, and all those stories which are a defensive mechanism of the ego is like broken. But also you're trying to make sure that okay, you're not now using that itself as a bypass to not feel anything, right? Because it's a very subtle place where our ego goes and stands, where it's like I've worn this robe of a witness of the one who's transcended, and to escape the pain. And so we say, can I go closer to the pain while noticing that there's a mechanism of the story going on? So, okay, that's practice two. Then there's practice three. And please, as we move through this, take a real life situation for yourself, because that kind of makes it real. And I can share these practices in like a write up maybe later. The third is this is one of my favorite practices, Byron Katie's work, right? The four questions. Is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? How do I react when I believe that thought? And who would I be without that thought? Um, and so this is when, for somebody who's not familiar with this, so this is when there is a painful thought, there is this, like we were discussing, there's a stubborn narrative that is coming up. You kind of run through these four questions. You say, is it true? Can I absolutely know it's true? And usually the answer is like, at what that point it goes no, right? Because, or even if you say, yes, I'm absolutely sure it's true, you say, what happens when I believe this thought? And it's usually I get angry, I get upset. And if I say, who would I be without the thought? I'm free. I don't have any of that suffering anymore, right? So this is great. But there is again a trap here, which is you're using a cognitive relief which comes from what happens when I believe that thought and what happens when I stop believing that thought. And immediately it's like, whew, I feel free. And and you say, okay, good, then I'm done, right? But you notice that the next situation, the same thing happens. You're very much back there, because the entire emotion that came up with that thought of like, what happens when I believe that thought, you didn't touch it again, right? Usually, this is what we do when it's like super painful, super hard, super sad. We don't want to touch that. We say, can I intellectually now get away from it, right? And so, a very good thing to do in this practice is don't move to question four until you feel something in the body at question three, right? When you say, what happens when I believe that thought? Let it happen, right? Let it happen. Let the feelings come. Let it, if you think it's going to overwhelm you, drown you, can you be brave as much as you can be at any given moment, of course, that allow it, allow that feeling, allow that grief, allow it to come, right? And this is the hardest bit. I'm not saying this is easy. I was trying this last week and I was like, this is hard. And that's where I was like, of course I'm doing this all these many years. Like this is what I'm happily doing and saying, yeah, I'm free, you know. But once you kind of say, and that's why they say the awakened state is not somebody who's like sitting on an intellectual high horse of like, yeah, I know the truth, right? It's about they actually probably will cry openly, right? They're undefended. In some ways, that's why they say it's like being a baby because you pinch a baby, it's going to cry. You take away its toy, it's going to cry, right? Um, but again, and also the best part of the baby is that there's no self constructed yet. So the stories are also not available, which is similar to the awakened state where the stories are not available. The stories are not gripping you anymore. It's available, but not, you don't take it on, right? And so something happens, you're going to cry, you're going to laugh, you're going to, feel angry. All of that may be, depending on whether it comes or not. There is a subtle nuance here, which I'll get to. But it's a great check to do to say, who am I without this thought? Sorry, who am I when I believe this thought and allow that to happen, right? Um, So yeah, that's the third practice with this twist. And the next practice is staying with, I don't know what this means, right? When something happens, usually we're immediately assigning meaning to it, saying this is what it means this person is bad, or this means I'm bad, or whatever it is that's going on. And instead we say, I don't know. I really can't know what this means, right? Someone didn't respond to your message, someone didn't call you back, like whatever it is, right? Someone was rude to you. And so you could say, I don't know what this means. I don't know. And and the ego hates that, right? Like not knowing. And so there is a space. And so at least the loops. This is how we tackle the loop part of it. Now, what's the bypass trap? Now again, it becomes a philosophy of avoidance, right? I don't know what this means. I don't have to, so I can just like get away from this. And so we add the addition. I don't know what this is, but there's something here. Right. And then you say, what is it? And you turn towards it, not turn away from it. You'll notice that I don't know what this means is a very nice way to not look at it now, right? Like, I don't know what this means, so let's go away from here. So if you say, I don't know what this means, but there's something here, then you have to look at it. Now look at it, and can I move towards it, right? So as you can see, each of this practice is one level. We know the older practices, which is like helping us get away from the narrative, but there's also the side of it which is trying to get us closer to the feeling part of it, or whatever it is that's coming up, right? Usually it's we have this body and nervous system, it processes things in a very real way. Usually we've learned very good ways to not do that. um, a lot of the world, the way it operates today, prioritizes the left brain, the thinking, the productive, the logical, the analytical part of us. So then, which when we get these practices, it's very easy for us to get into the like, how do I make this work and not feel anything, right? Um, or sometimes it might be if you have the opposite tendency, then you're feeling too much. And and usually when the feeling is held and without the story, it completes itself and it's done, right? You feel for a few minutes, for maybe 30 minutes, but beyond that, no emotion can last constantly, right? It changes and moves and goes away. When you know that if you're drowning in your own feelings, now again, you should check for the story part, right? Like whether that's still playing, because some of us are more open for sure, some of us are still very much in touch with our feelings, and we feel and we cry at whatever happens and all of that. But then if it's constantly we're in that state, then you check for the story more than the openness, because then maybe in that case the story is looping a lot more, right? um cool. And the last practice, this is the root of everything, the inquiry into the I. This is what Ramana Maharshi and others pointed to say, inquire into who is experiencing any of this. So when something happens, a difficult emotion comes up, we say, who is feeling this? And it's not a rhetorical question, it's a genuine looking, right? Like you say, who is the one suffering it, right? The fun part of this for me has been, and why this truth even kind of really felt like, yes, this is so true, is, you think about yourself as there's a body, there's a nervous system, where is this I that I kind of say it's very stable, right? And the emotions are going on moving. So what's this fixed entity? And every cell of ours is replaced, right? Like every few years. So what is this fixed entity that we're so sure of that is here, right? And so when you say it's happening to me, then what is that I, right? And that's lovely, that lovely question of Nisargadatta Maharaj, where he says, how did you look when before your grandmother was born or whatever, right? Like, so then it's like, okay, what was that? What is that? You don't even know, like, you can't touch it. And yet you've so solidified this belief of there is a me and I have to defend this, right? But it's true, like at a body and nervous system level, there is all this stuff coming up and you feel this pain. And so there is this dichotomy of like, at one level, I see this truth, and one level, there is so much to feel. And that's where I feel like, be it Jesus or Neem Karoli Baba or any of these masters, right? The way you could see it is in their, how they operated with the people around them, the animals around them. They were like totally operating with love. They didn't act like nothing exists, right? And I think that's where you can see whether you're intellectualizing it or it's actually playing out. Because if you truly touch it, I feel like we'll all be a lot in a state of love, in the sense that, I mean, it may play out in different ways. There's tough love also when it comes to parenting, but um, internally, I think it's all internal, right? You check yourself and you feel like you're open, you're allowing, versus feeling defended, right? Like you have to protect something. So yeah, when we check into this inquiry of the I, so we say, a good way to check is, like I said, are you more or less present to other people, right? Are you more or less present to other people's pain and everything? And it doesn't mean you buy into their story and loop yourself, right? It's about, if there is somebody has a loss and you can feel it and the emotion is coming up within you, you don't be like, oh, no, 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 but there's no them, no me. Can you just allow that, right? If it comes up, can you allow it, right? But there is this beautiful, subtle thing where, why I said we can never know what's an awakened response is, if I say that the emotion is generated by the story and the story is gone completely, will the emotion even come up? And we don't know the answer to that. Like I said, we don't know how much of the collective, how much of ancestry, how much of what goes on into that. So you could say we don't know. So the only one you can work with is yourself, like myself, right? And we can check what's going on, like to check whether am I open or am I defended, right? So that's what I wanted to say. So one good way to master check across all these different practices is, am I using this to feel more or to feel less, right? And the other part, on the other hand, of course, you say, are the stories looping more, or are they like, am I noticing and they letting them like go away on their own? So, all right. So that's what I wanted to share. I have a nice image that I put together. Let me share. Use your turn of tabs. Okay, can you see my screen? All right. Um, so this is the difference I was talking about, right? This is a great way to, if you're visual like me, you like it. So in the unawakened state, and again, this is not for anyone else. It's not about identifying if someone else is unawakened or bypassing or whatever. It's just for us, because there's no way you'll know, like I said, from outside what's happening. The relationship to pain is that we're identified with it and we're overwhelmed. And in bypassing, you're defended against it. This is a great check, right? Like, am I defended against feeling something, right? And that's why I'm using the particular practice or a tool. And in an awakened state, you'll probably be present, open. And actually, in this state, there's no separation, right? Like, there's no idea that there is something like my teacher Nitya, he said in this session that I was doing recently, I was listening to recently, is, said there is no separating line between you and the universe, right? And it's not our felt experience right now. And until we get there, I think the idea is to open and open more and not close more, right? So that's a great way to kind of check it. And the story is, of course, this shouldn't be in this case. And in this case, this is fine, all is one. And you're like, it's more in the head, right? And there's no story at all, right? In the third state, there's no story. And the body is flooded or frozen in this case, and whereas you're open and feeling fully. And the emotion is, of course, compounded and looping or suppressed under ideas, or it's clean, moving, and complete because the emotion, nothing stays stuck unless you kind of help, the mind helps it to stay there. So that's one. And sorry. Yeah. And what it reveals. What it reveals is impermanence as threat when when you're not seeing the truth. Of course, you feel it's a threat, or else you make it a concept once you intellectualize it, or you see it as the nature of love itself, right? Like it's the way things are. Um, so yeah, that's what I wanted to share. All right. Anything, anyone? Actually, let's take a minute to just breathe through that. I don't know if that felt like a lot to me also. Take a few deep breaths to just like, and it's okay if a lot of it felt like too much to do, or it felt like, even if you felt like, I know this, it's fine. Um, or it felt like not accessible, it doesn't matter. I feel like we have also glorified communication a lot in our in this world right now. Feel a lot of communication happens non-verbally. If I decided I want to share with you, you decided to attend this, you probably already got it. Because there's much more to this world in terms of energy. There is something, I've seen this repeatedly with respect to what's in the field, and you kind of receive the same messages through different, like I open an email and I find the email is talking about the same thing, versus I listen to a song, it might be saying the same thing. So it doesn't matter. um, we kind of hyper obsess about, I want to learn this and it has to come like this and it'll only come through this. I think the universe is giving us what we need constantly through endless means. So this was just meant to come like this at this point, and then if it's how it's supposed to evolve for each of us is going to happen on its own. So again, that idea of I need to do control is what we kind of keep looking into and seeing that it's false, right? Um, all right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Rajiv.
Smita, can I share?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I really loved how you touched base this concept of intellectualizing and spiritual bypassing, because when I started my spiritual exploration in the year 2017 somewhere, and I was just wandering my way through because I just didn't have any idea or any clue what I was experiencing in my body and what was the truth. So there was a time where I was actually in all these concepts, and I had this realization that maybe, spirituality is like a software, and this body or the emotions is a hardware.
True.
So for the for the computer of a human to work, both should be in sync. But
Yeah.
when you say that, when we are spiritual bypassing, the time that we are not focusing, I was not focusing on my hardware, maybe on the emotions or what my body felt like, but I was just in my, in that
Yeah.
intellectualizing part that, okay, I should be feeling one, I shouldn't be feeling rage or, angry and all sorts of things. So I really loved how you made the chart and you kind of made it very clear that how I was doing spiritual bypassing at one point of time, and how emotions they become difficult to feel in the body, and yeah, I just really want to press the escape button, just escape the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I really loved, or maybe, and one more thing that, that is the reason Ho'oponopono practice
Mhm.
never worked for me, because I was just like saying, okay, I love you, I forgive you, thank you. But it just didn't sit with me or in my body, or maybe, how I felt about that person or that thing, that situation I wanted to forgive. Uh, However, over a period of time, I realized that being human is first to feel it fully, to realize that, to come to that point of realization that, yeah, we have something beyond it. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing that. No, it's so true. Like, I think it's just this, it's almost like the reverse, right? Like being human is almost essential if you want to be awake, right? Like you will feel it. You will be okay to feel it. Like you open yourself, like, and I totally get why we do that switching off, right? Because it is too much sometimes. Like, say you lose a loved one, you feel like you're utterly like the grief is too much to you feel like it's too much to bear, right? And of course you'll be like, can I, if someone gives you an intellectual way to like say switch it off, and you'll be like, yeah, nothing has happened, right? Like that thing is so easy to go there. So to kind of have love for even when we did that, right? Like, or even when we do that, I'm sure we'll continue to do it maybe sometimes. It's like, it's okay. You get why, I get why, right? Like, and yeah, and to come back to like, yeah, what is it I do want to feel? Like, it's not an easy task. It's hard work. It's like, and we know all the emotions. We're all familiar with how it feels to feel afraid, to feel worried, to feel pain, to feel anger. And it feels like, I don't want to feel this, right? And to say, no, I'll open myself up there is, that's the act. That's, you can only do that when you truly realize nothing is there to get destroyed. Nothing can get destroyed, right? And that's where realization, if it can be actualized, then it will show it in that way, right? And we stay in compassion with our own, like whatever is happening, to say it'll get there when it gets there, right? So it's okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Anyone else wants to say anything?
May I add something to this?
Yes.
This is Sue.
Hi.
Hi. For me, today's session has been extra special because, um, life doesn't go the way we plan. And I'd planned to sit quietly and listen to you, but the universe gave me some other plans. So I was biking with you in my ear,
Okay.
listening to you, but there was no traffic, so it was okay. Um, what I so I'm sorry I could not grasp everything, and I even stopped at some places, and I said, okay, now I really need to stop and listen. But I had to go and reach some place, so I had to be on my bike.
Yeah.
But realizing this, yeah, just feeling the emotions, yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, angry, and not angry, but frustrated that I cannot attend the way I wanted to, la, 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 the whole story, the whole drama. And then I just started laughing and said, I could work in Bollywood or Hollywood,
I
because
know.
and then I go, okay, what if I just accept? If I just accept the fact, the way the things are, I need, this has to be done right now. And I am so grateful to all the scientists, to all the people before me who have got these AirPods now that you can sit in my ear, and I can ride the bike and I can hear you. And you are in one another time zone, and so am I. And I can still be a part of this community. Isn't this great? So I realized this. I've been practicing with gratitude when I come in with strong emotions. And I think that has helped me so much to realize and to question, to question the emotions also, because where I come from, people usually, there's a saying in my language that it says, you just accept the feelings, and you should let them be in you. And when I started questioning the emotions, something happened. I stopped feeling the intensity of the emotion. It lost its power, but at the same time, I was in the seat of observation. And then I could see the waves of emotion. And now I realize I have a choice. Earlier, I always thought emotion is a part of life, and it runs my life, and kind of being a victim of the emotion. But now I see, emotion comes from the interpretation my head has made to the sense activity which has been happening. And when I wanted to have a choice, and I have the choice when I question the emotion. To question the thought would be even better, but at the same time, sometimes it happens so rapidly and so fast, you cannot catch the thought at the same time. But then when I'm able to catch the thought, I ask myself, does this thought make me happy?
But you see the catch in there, right? Like, one, initially we're the victim of our emotions, like you said, and then now you've put yourself in this observation role, and now that's where your ego starts to hide, actually. And then you say, oh, I'm going to question every thought, and so I can. But there's no right way to this. It's a very useful thing to do, right? Like, to reframe, like you just did when you say, I'm first frustrated that I can't listen to this. But then there are certain times when we're doing it just to run away from feeling something. Like, that's where there's the catch, where what if this emotion was something you felt, you've been feeling repeatedly, because you've not sort of allowed yourself to even feel it. Your body is going to keep bringing that up again and again until you allow yourself to feel it, right? Like, and then of course, that's a subtle dance where I said, it's like, one is the story generating this emotion, or is this emotion just there and I'm not allowing myself to feel it? Right? Suppose someone hit a child, or right, someone hit an animal, whatever, right? And then you say, and you feel maybe sadness or anger, and at that time, if you say, I'm going to reframe this, it's not going to work, right? Like, you could reframe it saying, it's actually all perfect in the grand scheme of things, this was meant to happen, and so on. But then in that moment, if your body is like, your nervous system is responding to that, can you just allow that to come and go, right? Like, can you allow those tears to come, or like, that's the subtle difference. Like, do you see what I'm pointing to? Like, it's the reframes are super useful. I'm not saying let's all become victim to our emotions, but then there is this subtle thing we do. Once we get good at reframing, this is what we start to do. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's very powerful. All right. Anyone, anything?
I'll just add good session as always. And
You.
just for me it's the whole gist is just coming back to the presence,
Yeah,
being. And
yeah.
then you know how if you go in like some kind of like something is falling and then you can just like when you come into the present moment you can just like you did with Havening
Yeah,
almost, right?
yeah, yeah,
Rid of whatever was sticking, so no stickiness.
yeah.
So for me, the gist of everything that you shared came to be like whenever you realize that you are in a story, whenever you realize that you are getting your emotions, not just feeling them, but getting them into your another story or
Mm,
looping them to
mm,
something that happened previously, shared it all. Like, like Nitya has done before, like the soda bubbles. So let it
mm.
all bubble out or
Yeah,
shake it off or feel it.
yeah,
Like you shared many ways of doing that. But I think the crux of the matter is keep coming back to the breath, maybe, to
yeah.
presence. And that's it because as you said, like Sue was sharing, it's so amazing that we do this and then we're always back to square one.
True,
The fact, the thing is to realize that this is a wave, it will happen. You
it will.
will be at a moment where you are fully present, and then you will be at a moment when you're fully lost in the story,
Yeah,
and there'll be a moment that you are able to see this.
yeah.
But but it goes on and on and on. So I appreciate this session so much because it, wherever we are, we're just always, reminded that you can always be awake, like awakened from whichever state you are in.
True.
Until and unless, as you said, we realize that it's all one. But right now, for me, most of the times it's always the intellectual thought, except for the fact that I'm totally absorbed, like say, in some music
Mm,
by some in the presence of music or in the presence of if I am doing art very rarely, but that has also happened and I've lost sense of time and matter and all of that. So
yeah,
but those are just moments.
yeah.
And then I'm always back to the story, always back to the so yeah, much appreciated session. And I love I'm a visual person, of course, and I love the way that you pointed that out, like in your face. That chart is so in your face, usko print karke lagana chahiye. Like, see this, are you actually, which mode are you being in? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
amazing chart. It's so easy to read a book and then you go into that intellectual thing. Yes, I know it. It's like this.
I
And
know.
then
I
and
know.
back to square one. It's like, yeah, and the power of the community is when we talk like this, I realize, okay, other people also come back to square one.
True. Yeah.
Maybe even the ones who have written some amazing books,
A
because I
hundred
think it's always,
percent, 100%. Like that's one thing about the message and the messenger, right? Like even the person giving the message has maybe seen like glimpsed whatever, but doesn't mean whether they've actualized it. There's no way another person can know. Like no way, right? A person who's
yeah,
weeping uncontrollably could be that awakened person, or versus the very calm walking around person, or the calm person may be the one who's. You'll never know because you don't know their
yeah,
internal.
you'll never know. You'll
Yeah.
never know. Yeah.
So
And I really like that thing that when you shared the chart, you said it's for you. So let's not add another layer and start
yeah.
judging. Hey,
Can I
this
check if my
person does that.
husband is awakened or my, It's
Does
very
it like
quick how we do that
but
also, like, or
yeah,
like our teachers or the people who we read books of, like, you're like, are they awakened or not? Like, no, like none of that. Like, there's just you. Like,
no, none of us.
let's deal with ourselves.
Let's be very selfish and let's only improve our own self all the time. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's enough. You want to put it, I like to put it this way sometimes for the ego to like just take a check. Because sometimes you become holier than thou, right? We're like on
Yeah,
the top. No,
for
no, no. I'm being very
sure.
selfish. I only care that I stay in the present moment and I come back to the reality that,
Yeah.
I mean, one day I was frustrated and I'm like, okay, I am frustrated. I'm
Yeah.
fully frustrated. But how long can you feel that? After a while, I was like, okay, I'm done being frustrated and then move on.
And
But
usually,
most of the times
the
I'm like, I
resistance.
shouldn't be frustrated by
Yes.
this. I'm,
True, true, true. So
that's
true.
the problem.
it's the resistance that keeps it locked in as well. Like, that, like, feel frustrated, feel it. What does it feel
Yeah.
like? Like that thing, right? Like, you want to, like, whatever it is, just feel it. Like, it's
Hard.
okay, right? It's like, now don't intellectualize it to say, no, I shouldn't be feeling this. And yeah, we try
I
to
think
get out of it very
yeah,
quickly. That's the whole thing, that there's no getting out, right?
there's no
There's
getting
no
out.
getting away.
There's
There's,
no
what is that?
losing.
Wisdom of no escape, like Nitya says. There's no escape. You're going to feel all that you're going to feel. Like, you're going to feel miserable, you're going to feel sad, all of it. So, yeah. Thank you, Shubhra. Thank
And
you.
it's okay.
Yeah, and
And
it's
it's
okay.
okay.
And it's okay. And it's going to move.
Yeah.
And that doesn't say anything
It's
about
gonna
you.
move.
Yeah.
I think one more thing that you pointed in the session somewhere was that it's going to change, like the
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
It's going to keep changing. When you sit with anything, you're
Correct.
not really sitting with it forever. It
Yeah.
feels like mind tells me, oh, no, 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 don't go there. You'll be forever there. You will
Yeah.
never be forever anywhere if you're in the present moment.
Correct. Yeah. The very
So, very
nature of
nice
the
session.
world is impermanent. So how can it stay forever? Nothing's going to stay forever. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
in
so
that
true.
sense,
So true.
impermanence, actually, if you realize it, it's in itself is love. Like, that's what it said, right? Like, that itself is actually the nature of love, because why would it want you to stay stuck in one place? Or there's nothing to be
Yeah.
stuck. There's no you to be stuck. That's the entire thing, right? Like, it's all this big drama
Yeah.
going on with nobody to take ownership of. Like, but we do
Yeah.
right now. We do, and so we say, okay,
It is.
yeah. So,
We
okay.
just accept it. And I think for me, the most difficult thing to accept becomes fear. If it
Mm,
is led by external things that are happening, so you don't
mm,
want to go there. But it's
yeah.
okay. I feel like sometimes you can also sit with it.
And,
It's harder.
and you sit
It's
with it
harder,
and you
but it's
face it
okay.
as much as you can, right? Like, even for me, like, some fears are like, I
Yeah.
don't want to go there at all, right? And you say,
Yeah.
okay, not today, right? And you can, as in, like,
Yeah.
if it's, of course, if some threat is in your face, you can't help but face it. But
Yeah.
let's say, like, I know about you and me, like the driving bit or whatever, right? And we say, okay, I don't
Yeah.
have to go and on the road today. Like, if I need to, I'll go there tomorrow, right? And
Yeah.
you slowly pick
Yeah.
and work on these things. It's not an easy task. So.
Tiny, tiny. What can I do today a little bit? And that's it. And then not to
Right.
move. All right.
This is
Thanks.
how
Vivek
it is
has
for
his
some
hand raised.
reason. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you, Smita.
thank you. Sue, you raised your hand. And then Vivek.
Um, I just want to make sure if I've got you right.
Mhm.
You talk about um, feeling the emotion. Am I right to understand this, that you observe yourself feeling the emotion, or you get into the emotion?
Get into it. Become it. You and
But
your
if I
emotion.
become it,
Uh-huh.
but if I become it, if I identify myself
No,
in the
that's the
emotion,
difference. You don't identify. See, that's the thing. You don't say, I am this emotion. You don't say, as in, you don't try to say, I am now. Okay, let's hear your framing. Like, what usually comes
okay,
up.
so this is what I understood. So this is what I understand. So if it's not identification, it's like uh, I'm coloring myself with this emotion, which means that I am, okay, if I'm coloring red, I'm not red. I'm just coloring it with red.
Mhm.
Is that what you mean?
In some ways you could say, but then see, now again, you're still giving yourself a position, right? That's what the ego thing is, where it's always trying to give itself some position or the other. Like, where do I sit? Where am I? So the Buddha, for example, said, I love this thing. He said, when thinking, just think. When feeling, just feel. When, like, so
Yeah.
don't give yourself another position. Say, there is anger. That's it. There is anger. There is sadness. There is frustration. Where are you?
So,
Like,
but you're
that's not needed, right? Like, that's an addition. Where am I in this equation?
okay. So you are. I'm just trying to understand you. So
Hmm.
you're naming the emotion.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I know. No, no. Just feel it. Feel the, like, let's go to your body, right? Like, it says, and what does, like, you were feeling frustrated just a few minutes ago, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what did
Mm-hmm.
it feel like in your body? I don't know if you can remember back, but what can you say what the sensation was in your body? Like,
Of yes, yes.
yeah.
I was feeling very. First, it started with restlessness.
Mhm.
Then it started with a kind of feeling in the chest where I feel kind of defeated, in the sense that I wanted it in some other way.
Now, see, when you say defeated, that's still your meaning making, right? Like, go again, when you say tightness, it's still like a sensation. Like, how
so
we're doing this? Like, we're
okay,
like,
so you want to only connect the emotion to the bodily sensation,
to the raw experience of it. Yeah. Like, without any meaning making of it. Like, this means I'm defeated. That's a story already. Like, right? Like, why would you feel like
right?
it means defeat? Like, that's the story. And so now you say, okay, there's this horrible tightness, and there's this, not even that, it's still in our head. It's just this, let's say we're crying, right? Like, it's just a free thing that's happening. Like, there's tears rolling down, there is a whatever chest tightening, and there's a tears rolling down, and the head is what comes and says, this is wrong, shouldn't be happening, why are you feeling this is uncomfortable, right? But if you just give in to that feeling, like, let's say a baby is a perfect example in that sense. It cries its head off when it's hungry, if you remember, like, if you've seen a baby, right? Like, and there's no judgment, or there's no meaning making of, like, I am crying, I am this emotion or anything. It's just pure movement, right? Hunger, movement, crying, done. Like, the feed comes and it's done. It's clean. It's cleanly moving through that system without any other added stories, right? And you see that in ourselves. We do so much of that. We are too conditioned now. We are like learned this too well. So it's very hard to like peel back in that sense. Is that a helpful point? Or do you see the difference?
Yes, I do. And I am curious, and I would like to experiment with it.
Play with it. Yeah, for sure. Play with it. Like,
Yes.
when you
So
next time it
to figure
happens, you're
out,
like, what's the raw experience of this? And am I blocking this with my, whatever it is, right? With even trying to reframe, like, am I blocking this, or am I trying to not loop it? Like, that's the subtle difference. It's very hard to catch sometimes. Yeah, that's what I'm like pointing to. It's like, am I trying to run, or am I trying to face it? Face that tightness, face that restless feeling, face it, right? It's like, don't turn away, turn towards, and see what happens, right? But
okay,
without the looping things going on.
it sounds a little bit something like what Brené Brown talks about, being vulnerable.
Yes, in some
Yeah.
sense, it's
Okay.
definitely that. Yeah, like,
Yes.
be vulnerable. Like, don't, in this idea of like trying to reframe it, we're trying to protect our whole self. We're like, let me protect myself by reframing so I don't have to feel that ugly thing, right? I don't go there. So you're like, no, touch that ugly thing, touch it. Touch it, and then like
Mm-hmm.
grab it, like, whatever you can do. Start by like poking it at least. Yeah,
Okay.
good.
So I'll experiment till we meet the next time, and I'll let you know what's
Sure,
gonna
yeah,
happen.
you can message on the interactive group or to me. Like, yeah, for sure.
Sure. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time and your energy,
Thank
and also the time and energy of all the participants who are there here, because even if they don't talk, we sense their energy.
you. Yeah.
So really grateful. And this is not reframing. This is really great gratitude. No, but I have learned, I mean, it's helped me so. I start laughing when in difficult situations, and people wonder, why do I laugh? Because I just have gratitude, and then I go, what
What
thoughts did
was
I
I
get
hung up
about it?
about? Yeah.
Right, right. I'm just taking just 30
Yeah,
seconds of yours. I had to climb up, I had to go on the bike on a mountain
Mhm.
3 days ago. And I was like, what shit? I didn't want to go. And I was doing this for someone else. Okay. And I was like, I didn't want to do this. And this is horrible. And I mean, and it was so frustrating, and it was so difficult and so hard. And the sun was hot. I had everything that was negative, okay?
Mm.
And then I was fed up with myself and fed up with my thoughts. So I just looked up to the sky and I said, okay, now take a deep breath in and out. And now I really reframed and I said, now tell me what you're thankful about. And in 5 minutes, I was laughing my head off. And all the other bicyclists they were looking at me and wondering what happened. But I just couldn't help to stop laughing, because as soon as I started looking at the positive things and not the lack or not the things that were not going my way, because I was resisting and not accepting things they were, as soon as I let go of the resistance, it became so much easier to bicycle up to the top.
Mm.
And I did it. I did it from 200 meters to 900 meters. And I did it. So it was such a good, cool feeling.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
thank you for
sure.
giving me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Thank you for your energy and presence.
I just want to add, so if you're not biking next week, then we will explore almost the same thing, but in a more visual way, with some where you hopefully cannot, use your brain so much to interfere. If you use like visual art, like just
Good way to
colors,
not
paint,
use
pen.
using our hands
Yeah.
is a good way to not use our brain for sure.
Yeah, so we use our hands to
Yeah.
explore the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, I know
So
Bhavani
that's
asked to share
Is
this.
it the same time tomorrow?
It's the same time.
Tomorrow,
Next Sunday.
yeah,
Next week.
Next week, yeah.
Next week.
Next
Oh, okay. Fine.
Yep.
I'll pencil it in my calendar.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, we'll put reminders on the group. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been picking one topic, like we did Mother Essence for May, and then this is our topic for the awareness, and this is our topic for June. And so yeah, we explore it in different ways. So intellectually, with meditation, with thought, discussion, and then with art and journaling. So that just adds that part of using your hands to process things as well.
Yeah, definitely. Bhavani, was that okay? Do you want me to? I don't know if you're able to unmute now or not.
I think you can share it in the group later,
Yeah, I
maybe.
can
I think
share
it's
it in the
a
group.
excellent.
I can share it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wonderful.
okay. Thank you so much, Smita. That was
Thank you. Yeah, I'll
nice,
share it
but
in
I wanted to see again properly.
for sure. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
like
Thank
Shubhra
you
said,
so
I think we
much.
should put it up and look at it every day.
Yeah, sometimes needed.
Yeah. All right.
Very
Okay.
helpful.
Thank you,
I
everyone.
loved everybody's insights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.